Hello, it's Album Club with me, Leonie Cooper.
And me, Dan Stubbs.
And we're going to be discussing, as ever, 3 albums. It's a little bit of a twist this week because we're sort of in that time of the year where the albums aren't terribly forthcoming.
Well, there's big ones still to come. Taylor Swift's album's still to come,
There
for
are
example.
big albums to come for the rest of the year, but this week is...
It's a blip week.
Bit of a lull. So
yeah.
We're going to do 2 classic albums and 1 album that's out today, but they're 2 very classic albums, so I think you'll be pleasantly happy.
We just flipped the format right on its head.
We've done, yeah, but we're still actually sticking to the 3 album.
3 albums,
aren't we? So hopefully we're not going to freak you out too much. It's all going to be okay.
On that note, we'll start with the new one.
We will indeed. The first new album, and only new album that we're discussing this week, is Baxter Dury's Prince of Tears.
Prince of Tears, Prince of Tears, no one's gonna love you more than us. Prince of Tears, Prince of Tears.
Here it is, Dan. It's Baxter Dury's 5th solo album, Prince of Tears. Now, tell me who Baxter Dury is, because I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with him, though he is excellent and you should be.
Well, I might describe him, Leonie, as a chip off the old blockhead.
Now explain what that means to everyone who doesn't understand that
Because he
reference.
is the son of Ian Dury and the Blockheads, of Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick fame. It's kind of he was an amazing sort of punk new wave pioneer. Baxter Dury sounds quite a lot like him. It's got to be said.
He does. Definitely the delivery of lyrics, that kind of sprechen sang.
Come again?
Sprechen sang, which is
Strange stuff like that, I mean.
kind of spoken word, kind of half singing, half speaking.
Yeah.
It's a German word. The Germans have words for everything. I was trying to say
he does sing in English, to clarify.
But he is very big in France.
Right.
Do you know he's massive in France? He's like a superstar in France.
Is he?
And he hangs around with Jarvis Cocker and they stroll down the boulevards together and people are like, oh la la, look at these.
I don't know if French people say that as much as you might think, but I suppose
Just what I read
that
into
probably
it.
makes sense as well, because the Sprechen-Sang tradition now,
Yeah.
now I know this word. I suppose Serge Gainsbourg was very Sprechen-Sang when you think about it.
Indeed, indeed.
So
And
it's this languid style that he's got. I think this guy, I was listening to this and I was thinking, this is a You OK Hun album, because it's struggle.
the struggle in the Sahara.
A lot of the lyrics are quite troubling.
Well, he's a man in his mid-40s, and this is his heartbreak record. Guy's been dumped, man, and he's not happy about it, but he's sort of pretending he's all right about it, but really, he's not happy about it. So most heartbreak and breakup albums that we hear from young, like, sexy people, like Adele and Sam Smith doing all the, like, oh, my boyfriend left me.
Yeah, it's like, what do you know, kids?
And this is a guy who's like, oh, get divorced. Oh, nightmare. And that's what that would sound like. And you know what? It sounds fantastic. I'm sorry you're going through a bad time, Baxter, but I'm really enjoying how upset you are and your heartbreak record.
So there's a really kind of desolate one called Almond Milk, which is actually a really great song. But it's kind of just going, she wants phoning, she wants to leave me alone. It's this sort of desperate kind of like, you can't work out what to do, but it's got my favourite type of beat, which is that sort of Bon Tempi keyboard beat from the... He's just pressed demo on the keyboard and just gone for it.
Which
like
is what Leonard
songs.
Cohen did in the 80s a lot. And that's it's quite a Cohen-esque album as well. You mentioned Serge Gainsbourg. It's that sort of thing where there's kind of grumpy middle-aged man speaking, singing, and then it's like lovely female vocals in the background.
Yeah,
that lovely kind of...
Leonard Cohen, yeah. So they do the melody while he just sort of...
he goes, oh, my life's dreadful.
Yeah.
He's got like proper, like his dad, proper like Cockney accent, which is nice to hear. So this is his 5th album, so he's been around for a while. He didn't start making music until he was 30. His first album came out in like 2002, and then his breakthrough, if you can call it a breakthrough, because I think he's still quite a cult artist, was Happy Soup in 2001, which I remember being a big, like, everyone in the office loved it. It is very Six music, if that is a way to describe something.
Yeah.
And so if you're into that kind of thing, like, oh, I like The National and Lauren Laverne.
And Damon Albarn. It's very Damon Albarn, I think.
Yeah, you know what? It is.
But,
And
yeah, you wonder, because he was late to it, you wonder if that was partly because of the sort of stigma attached to being the son of a kind of massively highly regarded rock star. It's kind of difficult.
Imagine it would be. Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm not going to follow the old family trade, I'm going to be an accountant. I don't know if he was an accountant, he probably wasn't an accountant. He doesn't look like an accountant. He wears nice linen suits.
Yeah.
You can see that there.
But, so yeah, I mean, I don't know if it must be difficult being in that position, especially when you sound so much like him. And he does mind the same sort of stuff. So, like I said, Dan and Leonie was that kind of real new wave sound, and a lot of this is very, you know, it's very like Squeeze, XTC. There's all that kind of stuff goes into it as well.
Definitely. No, my favourite track is Miami, the opening track, which is him sort of giving it...
in the city till the break of dawn.
Not that one. No. It's not a cover of that, Miami. It's him giving it the big rebound talk. He's just like telling all the ladies, like, a guy to watch, a big guy on the scene, but you know deep down he's dying inside. It's a great listen. It's a fun album to sort of lose yourself in and put yourself in the shoes of a 45-year-old man.
I've written here like a depressed Sleaford Mods instead of an angry Sleaford Mods.
Funny you should mention Sleaford Mods, because Jason Williamson of Sleaford Mods features on this album, and they are quite similar artists. Also, the song that you like, Almond Milk, it features was it Rose Eleanor Dougal? Is she on that, or is she on Porcelain? Rose Eleanor Dougal, formerly of the Pipettes. Niche reference, if anyone gets that. Congratulations, you were alive in 2006. Who she also does like solo stuff with Mark Ronson, has like a lovely soft voice that works well against the gravelly, gritty grain of Baxter Dury.
You know what I'm thinking now?
What are you thinking?
So it's the plastic. Can I open it?
Yeah, get involved. This may take some time.
Go on. You
know what I'm going to fill the void with?
Go on.
Equally interesting. So today, re-released is Ian Dury, Dad's record, New Boots and Panties, and this guy here, that's Baxter Dury. I don't know if that works. Look, he looks different now, doesn't he? He's you end up in the desert.
There's a good Ian Dury picture from the back there as well, isn't there?
So this is a proper
what a dude.
Sturdy box set vinyl out today. It's 40 years since this was released. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Well done, Heavenly Records. Azure.
Is it?
Turquoise?
Azure.
Are you sure?
How many grains of sand from an infinite desert will you give this album out of 5 grains of sand? So
there's only 5 grains of sand in the infinite desert?
No, it's
just doesn't sound infinite. 4, I think, is a really good record. And it's a good autumn record as well.
Consensus.
Fantastic. Now, Dan, let's discuss classic album number 1. What is classic album number 1?
Well, I'm going to do this in the style of Bill Grundy.
Oh, OK, I thought you were going to say in the style of Johnny Rotten.
Say, you fucking rotter. It's the Sex Pistols.
I am an anti-coaster. I am an anarchoaster. Don't know what I want, but I know how to get.
We would have it, but we've lost our copy of it. This album.
It's outrageous. We've all got copies of this album.
You know what it looks like.
It looks incredible. So Jamie Reed did the artwork. He is a kind of pop art legend. He did the Queen with the safety pin through her nose and all that stuff. But not just the album artwork is interesting about this. This is the album that changed everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, this is a real cultural document, isn't it? It's like the sleeve with the cutouts, the sound of it, the kind of anger. This was like a real kind of moment in time. More of a kind of a cultural document than something that's really enjoyable to listen to sometimes, I think.
I don't know, because I obviously re-listened to it this morning. So just to tell you the anniversary, it's 40 years. I don't think we mentioned that. 40 years since this album came out, October the 28th. Weirdly, the band split, 3 months after it came out, so this is the only Sex Pistols album. Some kind of odds and sods of the film soundtrack thing, isn't there? Yeah, bits and pieces. But this Sings album. Yeah, there's Flogging a Dead Horse thing as well. There's lots of other stuff, but this is the only official Sex Pistols studio album. And it's the one with all the singles on that you would want. Yeah, so it's a great album. It's got Anarchy in the UK, it's got God Save the Queen, Pretty Vacant, yeah. What I found interesting about listening to this album again is not that I was there the first time and listened to it the first time. It's actually quite how safe it sounds some of the time as well. It's just like a fast-paced rock and roll album. It's not actually as scary as it was made out at the time. I think what people were excited about around the time when it came out was everything around the album rather than the actual music itself, because musically it sounds a bit like the Stooges, it sounds a bit like New York Dolls. It's just a rock and roll record. Well, I think there's sort of 2 factions in the band, wasn't there? I think like Steve Jones and Glenn Matlock, he'd left by then, hadn't he? He had, yeah. But I think they were quite sort of like, so Steve Jones was sort of basically a posh boy, wasn't he? I think, and
think they were kind of into making sort of nice melodies and things, which
it's
then
a deeply
were put through
melodic
this,
album.
But then they were put through this kind of Malcolm McLaren,
like
mess everything up
on the
machine,
top.
and, you know, and Sid Vicious, Johnny Rotten was singing with that kind of amazing sort of snarl, yes.
Yeah, and Sid Vicious, I think only plays bass on one track on the album because Malcolm McLaren heard him play and were like, you're fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And then I got the guitarist to just do all the bass parts.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's what's good about this, because that doesn't matter. It's like this was the reaction to all those kind of bands that were kind of too good at music, they were too kind of schooled, they were too kind of disappearing up their arses making concept albums.
Yeah. Well, it's the classic 3 chords and the truth number, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's not much going on this record, but there are some great songs, the singles that you mentioned. My favourite track, however, what's my favourite track? What is my favourite track? Submission is my favourite track.
Right. Are you just saying that to be different?
No, but I sort of am saying it to be different. But also, that's the one that really sounds like an Iggy Pop song. That's the one that really sounds like a Stooges track, and it's a bit slower paced than the other songs. And I don't know, it's just a bit more, now listening back to it, it's just a bit more interesting than the other tracks, because I think the other songs, the God Save the Queens, the Pretty Vacancy, we've heard so much. Like, every time you switch on like BBC 4, there's a documentary, and that's like playing in the background while you're watching footage from 1977 when, you know, they couldn't bury the dead and all the rubbish piled up on the streets. And now it just sounds like the soundtrack music for some television show, rather than like you go to an indie disco and they'll play that. It doesn't seem to be the thing anymore. It's more like a historical document than actual music that people would listen to. So the non-single tracks on the album are actually more interesting because they're not as heard. There's something a bit more to kind of dig into, and they are good songs. And then there's like weird tracks like Bodies, which is about abortion, and it's all a bit like...
The message is a bit like...
Yeah, there's some odd messages on this album, but there's some good messages on this album as well, like, you know, Anarchy in the UK. Just a song for the disenfranchised youth. And also a lovely line about the NME.
Yes, yeah, they shout us out.
Yeah, a little shout out.
I use the NME.
I use anarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really interesting what you said there about like the kind of this becoming this historical thing, and this kind of like the sort of chin strokeization of this whole punk thing. I actually just put the album on and listen to it, and what does it make you feel? And if you can put yourself back in the time, like bearing in mind. It was the Queen's Jubilee, 77. It was, you know, people being like throwing, you know, those porcelain plates. So I just spat a little bit there.
That's very punk rock of you, Dan.
Yeah, I did it on purpose, actually. There was those. It was people were having tea pies in the streets. It was all that kind of like twee stuff about Britain that like I hate. And here's a band came out that went, you know, God Save the Queen, the fascist regime. You know, they're kind of calling for like anarchy. I mean, it's pretty big. And even like in those days when people. You know, they weren't. I don't think it was more innocent times, but there was certainly more. People were more guarded about that kind of thing. So to put an album out that's called "Never Mind the Bollocks," although it's like it's only the word bollocks, it was still quite. It was quite out there.
Well, this meant the kind of record was banned from like mainstream shops, and you could only buy it in independent record stores. But so the thing about the single was it "God Save the Queen" going to #1 the week of the Jubilee. They didn't let it go to #1, so it should have gone to #1, but it apparently only went to #2. But the sales suggest that it would have gone to #1. But there was just this kind of media blackout where they're like, we can't say what happened to the single, and they didn't play it on Top of the Pops and all this quite interesting controversial stuff that just wouldn't happen now. They'd just be like, oh yeah, this song's #1.
What I like on here as well is the song EMI, which is basically just them kind of slagging off EMI who'd let them go. But they'd already gone from A&M to EMI.
To EMI, yeah. This was released on Virgin, their third record label.
Which ironically then became Virgin EMI later on, didn't it? So,
Richard Branson.
That's business.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that everything around this album is interesting. The album itself is interesting. It's just like, it's iconic. It's the album that changed everything. It's the album. Without this album, we wouldn't have had like 20 years later bands like, well, not even 20 years later, like 10 years later, bands like Nirvana. We wouldn't have had bands like Slayer. It kind of invented thrash, it invented hardcore, but also was quite a safe record sonically when you listen to it now. So it's weird, but this was it. Without this record, who knows what would have happened? Probably just the Clash. And things would have been the same. But
I mean, it's definitely like it kind of stands the test of time. I think. How many
safety pins?
I was going to say safety pins
because it's the obvious thing.
Okay. Well, I'm still going to do it. How many safety pins through your, what's this bit called?
Filtrum?
Filtrum.
Yeah, 5.
Not frenulum. 5?
Yeah.
You got room for 5?
I don't know, we'll try it later. After
Okay,
lunch.
I'm also going to insert 5 safety pins into my Filtrum in celebration of the album.
It can't not be a 5, it's a 5.
From one controversial album to another, that was in its own way quite controversial. In the track on this was banned by the BBC as well. Squares.
Right.
And the album is George Michael's Faith.
Well, I guess it would be nice if I could touch your body. I know not everybody has got a body like you.
What's the anniversary?
It is 30 years, October the 30th, 1987. George Michael, God rest his soul, released his debut solo album. So for the previous 5 years, he'd been with Wham, who were a huge band, but I think he felt trapped in this kind of, the way they were perceived as like a teeny bopper kind of kids act, like Screaming Girls, though. Like, Screaming Girls is the best audience to have.
I was looking at some kind of period reviews and stuff for this album, and they were just so full of bile about Wham, which is weird, you know, kind of throwaway pop music. Actually, they made amazing songs.
Amazing pop songs,
yeah. He wanted to distance himself from it. I think, you know, I think things were different then, and people were more sniffy about pop music, and didn't kind of, maybe there was, at that point in time, weren't appreciating just how brilliantly crafted those songs were.
Whereas now pop music is kind of heralded as the great thing that should be, whereas then it was like, pop music is for the kids, and then we've got like serious indie bands and like amazing soul music and amazing R&B, but pop was throwaway.
So George Michael went out on his own. He came out with this album that's got some quite deep subject matter. He sniffed his armpit on the cover.
Yeah.
Or is he like a proto-dab?
He's just... oh my God, he invented dabbing.
He invented dabbing. And it looks at kind of... So the one that was banned by the BBC is I Want Your Sex.
Funny that.
They didn't like the word sex at the BBC too much.
Do they like it now? Are they into sex now?
I don't know, really. Don't know. And that's obviously... we don't need to talk. We don't need to say what this is.
It's about shagging.
It's about shagging.
Heavily influenced by Prince. It's got that kind of like arcadey funk sound, like all these kind of little...
He liked to write about shagging as well.
Prince? Yeah. No, did he?
He did, yeah.
Oh, I wondered what all those songs were about. And the line on I Want Your Sex that I like is, sex is natural, sex is good, not everyone does it, but everybody should.
Yeah, it's a good manifesto.
Catchy. Well, a lot of people do, that's why we're all here. I hate to break it to everyone, but we are all the product of shagging.
That's true. But, on a more serious note, other subject matters on this album include addiction, which you start with on the song Monkey, which is a very funky take on addiction.
I thought that was about a trip to the zoo.
And also domestic abuse is touched on as well in Look at Your Hands.
Oh, was that? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was kind of going, you know, I'm tackling the big things. It was, and this album is really like, it sort of set the template for anyone who wants to do a George Michael. Like doing a George Michael is now a thing, isn't it?
He invented doing a George Michael. That's what it's called, doing a George Michael. Yeah.
So people have tried it. Some people have done well with it. Some people haven't.
He did well with it, didn't he? This album sold 20 million copies.
Yeah, which
won
is
Grammy
insane,
for
isn't it?
Album of the Year. Everyone was like, bloody hell, that George Michael's good.
I think like in the 80s, in the way that people you know had those TV programs where everyone would watch this TV show. And all these, it was kind of the same with certain albums, wasn't it? Like, so, you know, Thriller everyone had, and like, Bat of Hell we talked about like last week. Everyone had that album.
Yeah.
And this was one of those, like, every household had a copy, like, you know, probably regardless of whether you...
Even if you're into it or not. You're like, I suppose we'll have to buy Faith then, love.
Someone got you
pick
for
it up
Christmas
from our price.
Yeah.
I like Father Figure. That is my favourite. The lyrics are strange.
Yeah, what is that about?
I'm not... about being a nice dad, I hope, or maybe something a bit like equating, daddy issues. I'm not sure, but it's a lovely song. That gospel choir, it's just a great soul song. Also, like One More Try as well is another kind of good gospel tune. It sounds like White Shade of Pale by Procol Harum because it's got that organ. That was me doing a church organ. Pretty spot on.
Good.
And then there's that weird, like, Bing Crosby style torch song, Kissing a Fool, towards the end of the album. Like, what's this?
Yeah, I mean,
where'd this come from? There's some weird stuff on here.
I was surprised re-listening to it in that, like, it's not one of those where you know everything on it. So
no, definitely.
And there were
definitely
7 singles from this album, which is amazing.
Which is impressive. There's
There's
only like
about
10
songs
tracks.
on it,
Yeah. And I only knew, I had heard this album before, but going into listening to it this week in preparation for this, there was a lot of songs I was like, oh, this is new to me. The singles, well, the 3 like big singles I knew. Faith, like, what an amazing tune. Like, huge, like, weird, like, rockabilly pop song.
Yeah,
and just
great,
the look of him as well. I mean, the video, so iconic. The hair, like the sun in quiff.
Well,
and
he
the
actually
leathers.
he really changed the look of people, of blokes in the 80s.
Dangly earring.
That whole, the denim jackets, the leather, the kind of the frosted tips and everything.
Everything really tight.
Oh, and
the little
designer stubble.
He invented designer stubble,
Basically,
didn't he?
Yeah, he popularised that, which was like...
Yeah.
Why was it called designer stubble?
Because, I don't know, somebody designed it.
Yeah.
But that's what's interesting about this album as well, is the whole, like, how iconic, the whole imagery around it as well. It's not just about the music, it's about him, like, creating this whole new man, along with, like, he's got a new sound, got a whole new look as well. And that's what people do now when they reinvent themselves. But I think before, reinvention wasn't really a thing, was it?
No.
It was just like, this is what I do, I'm going to do it for 30 years, then I'm going to die.
Wow.
Just truth in you. Sorry.
so many bleak truths this morning.
Yeah.
How many frosted tips out of 5 frosted tips will you give this?
I'd like to give the song Faith 5 frosted tips.
I'm going to give that 1,000,000 frosted tips.
Yeah, because that song is just so good, and Father Figure is just so good as well. But I think as an album, there's a 3 to 4.
Oof. Don't go there.
It's a
Don't
4.
go lower than a 4. Come on.
It's a 4. It's just some of the songs. There's a really jazzy one on there that's like...
Don't be afraid of the jazz. It's a 4, at least.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a 5 then to sort of balance it out.
So it's not... I mean, okay, yeah, it's a 4.
Right. And a 5.
It's a 5. I mean, it's George Michael. Yeah, I love George Michael.
Which concludes this week's album club, this special edition.
Special classics.
Delves deeper into the past than we normally do.
Yeah. 40 years, 30 years to today.
Going to run back up into the time tunnel, back to office. We'll be back next week with
Yeah, we will.
2 new albums.
Yeah, if there's good ones out.
Is Swifty out next week?
I think it might be
Some
too
big ones
swift.
to come.
Yeah, there's some big... November is big. Now go and watch Stranger Things, probably.
What are we going to do?
See ya.